Did you know James Brown remains were buried after 2 years in funeral home? When James Brown, the Godfather of Soul, died at the age of 73 in 2006, he left behind quite a legacy as well as one hell of a mess. With more than 10 children, he only acknowledged 6 in his will as beneficiaries, and with fourth wife and child being omitted in the will. This led to 15 years of family legal feud. In this video we will explore the messy aftermath that followed after James Brown's death. So, if you're a James Brown fan or simply curious about this soul and funk legend, hit the like button and let's dive in. James Brown had a troubled childhood. Born on May 3, 1933, in Barnwell, South Carolina, his birth certificate's mix-up of his names became a small part of the unique story that was his life. Growing up in poverty in a small shack, his early life was marked by hardships. His parents, Susie and Joseph Gardner Brown, were young and struggling, and his family's financial situation was far from stable. The difficult circumstances led to James Brown's early exposure to adversity. As you mentioned, the family eventually moved to live in one of his aunt's brothels. However, due to the abusive environment created by his father, James and his mother made a bold decision to escape. They fled to New York in search of a safer and more stable life. Imprisoned at a juvenile detention. Following a tumultuous early life, James Brown's path led him to a juvenile detention center at 16 due to a theft incident. During his time in the detention center, he formed a gospel quartet alongside fellow inmates, laying the groundwork for his future in music upon his release. Engaging in similar musical groups over the years, Brown eventually became a part of the famous Flames. After the original lineup disbanded, he reassembled them under the name James Brown and his famous Flames. In October 1958, Brown unveiled the ballad, "Try Me," which swiftly ascended to the pinnacle of the R&B chart in early 1959. This marked the initial entry of his 17 singles that would top the charts, signifying the inception of his remarkable musical odyssey. While garnering some recognition by the late 1950s, it was the 1960s that truly propelled Brown to global superstardom, characterized by his captivating stage presence and dynamic dance routines. What are James Brown's biggest songs? Here are some of James Brown's most iconic tracks that have left a lasting impact on the world of music. It's a Man's World. I Got You, I Feel Good. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. The Payback. Living in America. Say It Loud, I'm Black and Proud. Get Up Off of That Thing. Get Up, I Feel Like Being a Sex Machine. Superbad. The Boss. These songs showcase James Brown's versatility as an artist, his ability to blend various genres like soul, funk, and R&B, and his profound influence on the music industry. How many times was James Brown married? James Brown married Velma Warren in 1953. The marriage produced 3 children, but it ended in divorce in 1969 due to allegations of domestic abuse. His second marriage was to Deidre Jenkins. They had 2 daughters together, but their marriage ended in separation in 1979. Brown's third marriage was to Adrian Rodriguez, lasting from 1984 to 1996 when she passed away. Despite filing for divorce in 1988 citing mistreatment, they later reconciled. After Brown's death, his marriage to Tommy Ray Heine, a backing singer, has been considered unofficial by some, although she claims it was legitimate. The circumstances surrounding this marriage remain contested. Throughout his relationships, Brown fathered multiple children with various partners. However, officially recognized as his legitimate children are Terry Brown, Larry Brown, Daryl Brown, James Joseph Brown II, Lisa Brown, Dr. Yama Noyola Brown Lumar, Deanna Brown Thomas, Venetia Brown, and Teddy Brown. James Brown's personal life was marked by both successes and challenges, and his relationships have continued to be a topic of discussion and debate in the years following his passing. How did James Brown die? It is believed that the death of the Godfather of Soul, James Brown, remained mysterious to this time of making of this video. James Brown's death on December 25, 2006, was initially attributed to heart failure. He passed away at the age of 73 in Atlanta, with his personal manager, Charles Bobbitt, reportedly present. It's true that James Brown struggled with substance abuse throughout his life, including his well-documented use of drugs like PCP. Such substance abuse can have serious health consequences, including damage to the heart and other organs. While initial reports pointed to heart failure as the cause of death, over the years, there have been speculations and claims suggesting that his death might have been the result of foul play. Some individuals have raised suspicions due to various circumstances surrounding his death. 1. The doctor who attended to James Brown on the night of his death has held suspicions that there might have been a darker aspect to his passing. Marvin Crawford, the physician who treated Brown before his demise, noted that Brown's condition deteriorated surprisingly quickly. His decline was too abrupt, Crawford stated. Reflecting on the situation, he remarked that Brown's case was unexpected, and he questioned the circumstances leading to his death. He was a patient whose deterioration I wouldn't have anticipated. However, he passed away that night, and I did bring up the query, what transpired within that room. 2. It's worth noting that no official autopsy was conducted following James Brown's death. 3. Furthermore, there are rumors circulating that an unidentified visitor managed to enter his hospital room shortly prior to his passing. 4. Adding to the intrigue, a trusted companion of Brown asserts that they currently hold a vial containing his blood, with the aim of demonstrating potential foul play involving drugs and intentional harm. 5. Lastly, the present location of his body remains are undisclosed to the public. Brown's death is similar to his wife's passing, 10 years earlier. The circumstances surrounding James Brown's death bore an unsettling resemblance to those of his ex-wife, Adrian. While the official statement from the Brown family attributed Adrian's death to complications stemming from cosmetic surgery, a retired police detective who had looked into the matter came across a significant piece of evidence. This detective discovered a notebook from an informant which contained an allegation that a doctor had admitted to deliberately causing Adrian's demise through a drug overdose that was meant to appear accidental. This connection between the two deaths adds an element of intrigue and suspicion to the narrative surrounding James Brown's passing and the circumstances of his ex-wife's demise. James Brown's body was buried 2 years after his death. The dispute over James Brown's estate extended to the issue of his final resting place. This conflict persisted for over 2 months and resulted in Brown's body, enclosed in a gold casket, being placed in a refrigerated storage facility at a funeral home. Eventually, a resolution was reached, and Brown was interred in Beach Island, South Carolina, on the property belonging to one of his daughters. There were aspirations within the family to transform this property into a memorial site reminiscent of Elvis Presley's Graceland. However, despite these intentions, the endeavor to establish such a shrine for James Brown never came to fruition. The tussle over his estate, the delay in his burial, and the unrealized plans for a dedicated memorial site all contributed to the complex and contentious legacy surrounding the iconic musician's passing. James Brown will and messy family legal feud for 15 years. The legal disputes regarding the estate of the renowned musician, often referred to as the Godfather of Soul, had persisted since his passing at the age of 73 on Christmas Day in 2006. The aftermath of the performer's death set off a series of peculiar headlines, starting with Tommy Ray Heine, a former partner and mother to one of Brown's children who asserted that she was Brown's wife. She found herself locked out of his expansive 60-acre estate, with images of her tearfully and anxiously beseeching to be allowed entry through its iron gates being captured by photographers. She claimed to be married to Brown, but evidence of that was scant. Over the years, a significant number of lawsuits, totaling more than a dozen, were filed by various individuals seeking to stake a claim to the singer's considerable assets. Estimations by the courts regarding the value of these assets have varied widely, ranging from around $5 million to potentially surpassing $100 million. In 2009, a proposed settlement outline emerged, outlining the distribution of James Brown's estate. Under this plan, nearly half of the estate's assets were earmarked for a charitable trust, a quarter designated for Tommy Ray Heine, and the remainder intended to be divided among his adult children. However, in 2013, the South Carolina Supreme Court nullified this settlement arrangement. The court asserted that the then Attorney General Henry McMaster, now the state's governor, had not adhered to Brown's explicitly expressed desires, which prioritized allocating the majority of his wealth to charitable endeavors. Instead, the Attorney General had chosen to appoint a professional manager to oversee the estate's assets, which led to the control of these assets being transferred away from the estate's trustees in order to settle outstanding debts. The family of late singer James Brown reached a settlement deal after a 15-year dispute over his estate in 2021, but it was not made public. His heirs finally sold the value of his estate for $90 million to Primary Wave Music. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you on the next video.